If your Instagram stories are limited to memes, what you had for lunch today, and the latest glute exercise, then you might be missing out on your biggest sales tool yet. I'm your host, Shona, and in today's episode of She is the Moment podcast, I'm going to dive into how your Instagram stories are a goldmine for trust, connection, and most importantly, conversions. I'm a millennial and I absolutely love Instagram. It's the app that I use more than any other social media app. When I open up Instagram app, I don't bother scrolling on my feed. I am looking at my Instagram stories, and especially my favorite people to follow on social media. I will be looking at their stories rather than their grid posts. There's this thing in marketing called the know, like, and trust factor. And that's a concept that emphasizes the importance of building a relationship with your followers and ideal clients on social media. It's based on the idea that you're more likely to buy from someone that you feel like you know. And if you're listening to this and you are a coach or personal trainer in the health and fitness industry, then I want you to know how important it is to be building relationships on social media rather than just trying to make a sale. Okay, so why do your Instagram stories matter? I'm going to tell you something. Your Instagram stories are where your biggest fans are hanging out. You will know that when you post a story and then you swipe up to look at who has seen it, it's always the same 5 to 10 people at the top. And those are the people that love everything that you do. They're so behind you. They can't wait to see. As soon as your little face comes up on the top of their Instagram feed, they are smashing that button because they want to see what you are saying, what you've been up to, and what you're doing now. It gives your followers a chance to see a little behind the curtain, if you will, of your business. If you think about your grid as the shop window, so that's what people see when they're walking past your Instagram stories, as if they've opened the door and they've walked inside, and now that you have their full attention, they are looking behind the scenes of your business. With all that in mind, so many coaches and personal trainers are making big mistakes with their Instagram stories. And I see it all the time because I follow so many of you on social media and I am looking at your grid occasionally, but I'm always looking at your stories. And what I see is that you are posting really polished content on your grid, really helpful, educational content, full of value. And you probably spend a lot of time creating that content. You have a lot of thought behind it. You put a lot of effort into making the perfect Canva slides or the perfect edited reel, and your captions are so on point, but you don't have the same strategy and planning when it comes to your Instagram stories. You have that sort of like, what am I going to post today? Then quite often what happens is on your stories, you're oversharing personal life content because you're like, I need to share with my followers what I'm up to today. So here's my lunch. And I have been to the gym today and here's all the exercises that I've done. But none of it actually matters to your audience. We have to think, what is in this for them? What is this doing for them? And I've said this before in other episodes of my podcast. When you're sharing personal brand content as opposed to personal life content, it's not about you, it's about your ideal client. So how is this going to impact them? How do they relate to this? What does it mean for them? What can they learn from this? I remember a couple of years ago when I had no clue what I was doing on social media, I loved posting on Instagram stories. But here's the thing, I was oversharing massively. And I would be posting far too much irrelevant content. What I thought about what was going on in the news, about politics, about social issues that really wasn't actually doing anything for building my business, yet it was getting tons of engagement and people were chatting away to me all the time in DM, but it was about nothing to do with my business. We were chatting about Boris Johnson. Meanwhile, I'm wondering why no one is signing up for my programs because what I had done was put myself very firmly in the friend zone. And that is something that a lot of people are doing with their Instagram stories. And it does get you tripped up because you are getting tons of views. I would get thousands of people looking at my stories I would have full DMs and people interacting with me and commenting on the back of my stories. But it had literally nothing to do with working with me because I was such an oversharer on my Instagram stories. Fast forward to today, and on a good day, I will have 100 people looking at my stories. I used to get thousands. Now I'll get under 100. But I know that my Instagram stories are going to be converting for me. I have much less people engaging with me, but I'm earning 3 times the amount that I did when I had thousands of people looking at my stories. But it was that thing. It's like when you're driving past a car accident, people can't help but look. And that's literally what my Instagram stories were doing. I was sharing all the sordid details of my life because I thought, I need to be relatable. I need people to know that I am just like them. But all I was doing was making them think, yeah, she is just a hot mess, just like me. And that's not what we want to be doing with our Instagram stories. We want people to relate to us. We want people to trust us, but we also want people to want to invest in our services. And there's a big difference here because let's face it, I'm not going to invest in someone who I think might be a hot mess. And I don't think you are going to either. I've seen so many coaches and personal trainers who are great at selling on their grit, but they don't ever use their Instagram stories to sell. So all they do is they'll share their post that they made that day, or maybe they'll share someone else's content, or they'll put some videos of them training. It never goes anywhere. Or maybe you're just using your stories for the opposite and you're only selling on them. So maybe you'll just share the link to your program, buy my program. And yeah, of course, that does feel really salesy, but we have to remember that we have to engage with our audience. We have to actually provide them with some value if we're going to sell to them too, rather than just sticking a link up. Now, the great thing about Instagram stories versus your grid content is that it is so interactive. And I want you to be using all those amazing little features to get people to engage with you. So maybe next time you put up a story, why don't you get people involved by having some sort of quiz or a Q&A, or get them to tap a button, or you can even get them to vote in a poll. These are all things that get people engaging with you. And I remember hearing this back in the day when I was an in-person PT, is this sales technique of layering. It's just a way of getting to know people and building relationships. So the way that I was taught it is day one, if I was standing in the gym and say I was cleaning equipment, I would say hello to people as they entered, right? So I'd just say, how are you? And then the next day I would say, hi, how are you? And what are you doing today? And then the next day I would say, how did yesterday's gym session go? Blah, blah, blah. And I would layer and build the relationship so that I wasn't just bam, going in selling to them from day one. That is just a really natural way of building that connection with someone so that you have more to engage with, you have more to talk about, and that person feels like they know you a little bit more every time they interact with you. You can also use these interactive features as part of a launch or when you're bringing out a new offer to get people excited about it. And that is something called gamification. Now, Instagram stories are so great for gamification. So it's basically getting people to engage in your marketing strategy by getting them to play a game. And there's so many different ways that you can do that. So a really simple way that I did it when I launched this podcast, I put up a competition to see if people could guess the name of my podcast. And I gave them a whole bunch of clues. And I ran the competition for a few days, and whoever guessed the podcast name correctly got £50 off working with me. So that's a really fun way to get people excited and looking at your stories because do you know what? Let's face it, they're probably scrolling while they are sitting on the toilet at work and they are bored. So the more that you can make your content on your Instagram stories exciting to read, engaging, the better. Another thing I love to do because FOMO is such a powerful tool. FOMO, the fear of missing out. This is when people want to be part of something and you can really use Instagram story features to do that. So whenever I'm creating a new program or I'm showing behind the scenes of my coaching collectives or my membership, for example, I'll post a screenshot and then I'll use the paint tool and then I will delete a little bit just so they can see a little bit of behind the scenes. But there's also various stickers that you can use to cover things up and get people thinking, what is behind that? I want to see it. I also love telling stories on Instagram stories. The clue is in the name. So your stories are great for taking people on a journey. So maybe tell them a story about something that you have experienced that they will be going through right now, how you worked through it and how you have come through the other side. And you can do that in a really interesting way on your Instagram stories. So you can get the highs and the lows and really talk to what they are going through and the way that you went through it too. So they're like, wow, this is so relatable. And while we're on the subject of relatable, it's so important that your audience feels like they know you, but in a way that also means that they look up to you, because there is a very fine balance between trying to be relatable and coming across as a hot mess. And I've talked about this at length in this podcast. In fact, I think there's a whole episode about personal brand and coming across as a hot mess. And we really don't want to do that. So that when we're telling these stories about the struggles, the challenges that we've gone through, we're doing it in a way that doesn't make us look like we need an intervention. And if you ever get a message off the back of your personal brand stories, someone saying, "You're so brave. Thank you for sharing this," then you know that you have gone too far. We want people to be like, this is so inspirational. I want this for myself. It's so great to see that you understand what I'm going through. So I want you moving forward to always pre-plan your Instagram story content. It is essentially no different from your planned strategic grid content. The reason that I am making this video is because me and my clients make the majority of our sales on our Instagram stories. Of course, we post consistent quality content on our grid, but we also post on our Instagram stories. And if you think about your grid content, it's like warming people up and moving people along the buyer journey. Instagram story content is what pushes them over the edge because they are that one step closer to you. They are literally a button tap away from your DMs, as opposed to when they're on your grid, they have to like physically go and message you to get into your DMs. And we know how lazy people are these days. So if all they need to do is tap a button, we are making it so easy for them. I have a client right now. She's a one-to-one client and she has sold out her group program starting in January with 30 spaces using pretty much only her stories. Of course, she's had people respond to call to actions in her grid post, but she's sending me screenshots of her Instagram stories, button taps, and she's having to like scroll down to show me how many people are tapping those buttons. And she's at a point now where she's sold out of the spots. So she's having to direct those people into other offers. And that is just because she has built such a warm audience using her Instagram stories. They feel like they know her inside out. They trust her so much and they know that she is going to help them get the results that they want. So they tap those buttons, they vote in those polls, they're sliding into her DMs off the back of her stories and signing up for her programs, which means I'm a life first business coach. She is entering into December with her January fully booked. Imagine being in that position where she can just switch off for December, enjoy herself, maybe post some fun visibility content, post some content that is just keeping that audience really nice and warm because she has the income, the monthly recurring income coming to her bank account all the way through to April. Isn't that just the dream? And that is the power of being able to build a super warm audience using your Instagram stories. If you're listening to this, it's been uploaded on a Friday. As of next week, I have a 5-day Instagram story bonanza. I love that word, bonanza. But that's exactly what it is. Because inside the Liberation Lounge on the Wednesday, I have a masterclass, how to have that swipe up success, how to build trust and connection, how to get people engaging on your stories, tapping your buttons and converting them into paying clients. I'm also having a 5-day 30-day Instagram story challenge, I will be posting scripts and prompts that you can use on your Instagram stories so you can sign clients in the lead up to Christmas. Ain't that the dream? So if you're interested in joining the Liberation Lounge, not only do you get access to my Instagram story challenge next week, but you get access to the whole bag of content and video trainings on how to completely pivot to an online business and get your next 5 to 10 online clients. So if you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast and you feel like you need help with your social media strategy, not just your grid content, not just your Instagram content, your entire social media strategy, then feel free to reach out. All the links are in the show notes. Have a wonderful day. Bye.